Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Tonight, the July of 2024 Wild Bird Update. A very, very hot month. Let's see. You guys are starting to check in already. So I always talk about giving people a few minutes to check in here, kind of a preview of the things we're going to be talking about tonight. Obviously, the heat. Heat's a big topic when it comes to July and August, and so we're going to talk about that and how birds deal with heat, and how you can help as well. And nesting is still a major topic right now, and we're going to talk about various birds. And one of the things I thought I would concentrate on more is show you some adult and juvenile pictures of some birds in the area that can be really confusing, and we get a lot of questions on those this time of year. People sending pictures of juvenile birds and not recognizing them as their species. So we're going to cover a few of those and talk about that. And then I've got a couple of, one of them was a biology type topic to talk about, which ties into juveniles and a bit of molt. And then I'm going to talk about one of my favorite birds that to me is a real symbol of summer toward the end there. And obviously, like always with these wild bird updates, we're going to do question and answers because I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions for tonight, and we will definitely get to your questions and answers for sure. So my name is Mark McKellar. I am a wildlife biologist who owns the Backyard Bird Center in Kansas City, along with my wife, who's sitting over here. There goes a hand in Kansas City. And so, again, we always ask you, if you would, when you check in, would you please let us know where you're checking in from? The city and state's just fine because we are here in the center of the country, and you guys check in from east, west, north, south, and it really helps me to kind of get a feel for the timing of things whenever we're addressing topics. So we always ask that you do that. We really appreciate you joining in and participating. These are, like I said, these monthly updates are great for just all around bird topics, and that's kind of our goal when we do this. These from month to month. So let's see who's checking in. Hi, Carol Erickson. How you and Jay doing? And some of our real regular bird watchers who come on our hikes, and they've been out and about bird watching this spring and early summer. I know you guys went to Texas and have been out west a little bit, so welcome in. All right, Andrew from Cincinnati. Hi, Andrew. I know you've been excited about your hummingbirds. And that's going to be a topic of discussion tonight for sure. Yeah, the hummingbird numbers are picking up. Hi, Keith from Houston, Texas. You're a regular. Welcome in. Hi, Brittany from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. She sent me a picture of a bald eagle up in a tree real close, and it's amazing. We were traded a couple of emails back and forth about how the recovery of bald eagles has been amazing, and how they are being seen and they're nesting in less than ideal habitat now because all of the really ideal habitat seems to be occupied by nesting birds, and so they're showing up in the darndest places with nests and things. Hi, Richard from Nanuet, New York. Welcome in. Tiff's Backyard Birding. Hello from North Georgia. Hey, Boston guy from Boston. Welcome in.
And that's Holly.
Holly Miller. Hi, Topsail Beach, North Carolina. Hi there, folks. There's some of
Holly and Frank.
I know.
Okay.
Holly and Frank.
Making sure. Just making sure.
That's right. And Holly's husband, Frank, used to work with the guy who started me bird watching. And, one of my best friends in the world. And they worked together when they were at Camp Lejeune together. So welcome in, Holly. Yes, I bet you guys are getting hummingbirds. They're there in coastal North Carolina. Get those babies are showing up. Hi, Joshua. Yep, from Southwest Michigan. Long time. Yeah, I haven't seen you pop up on here in a while. That's good to welcome you in back. And hi, Shirley Wilhelm from San Antonio, Texas. So they're another very regular visitor to these open mic ones. Steel Monkey from Cape Cod, Mass. How are you doing tonight? From Nebraska. Cal, thanks for all the content you put on Outmark. Well, you're very welcome. Thanks for for supporting it. You guys watching it and commenting on it, that definitely makes a huge difference and enables us to. Hello, Kurt. You remember Kurt was on with me about a month ago about his water feature he built. Welcome in. Sherry Gardens all around. Hello, just discovered baby catbirds enjoy grapes on the vine. Yes, they do. They do. They are definitely lovers of fruit, and people do put out grapes for them sometimes. Hanging a bunch of grapes on a feeder, and mockingbirds will eat those as well. The members of those as mimic thrushes, they do love that fruit. So, all right. Well, that's got some welcomings going in here, and so the first thing I was going to dive into tonight is heat. I don't know where you guys are from all over, and I've seen a lot of south and east and different parts of the country, and I've had people from parts of the country commenting how hot it is where you are, and how do birds deal with heat. Now, I do have a video up on in the YouTube channel, and if you search by how do birds deal with heat, it should come up. But I thought we would hit on some of the major points of that tonight, so that you can. Let's see, where are we? No, I'm not going to move that. We're there, and that guy right there. All right. If this is a northern mockingbird and he is panting. He has his mouth gaped open and he is panting, and it's not like dogs and cats and panting. Birds are quite unique and their respiratory systems, they actually have one-way airflow. So you know how when we breathe in and breathe back out, the air mixes coming in and coming out. Well, with birds, that's not how it happens. They have a one-way path of air through their bodies. And so panting is very efficient for them. It really does help to cool them down more so. Whereas in mammals, we panting, we're counting a lot on that of our saliva on our tongue to help to cool down. That is not the case with birds. So they have unique ways of keeping cool. Other, of course, is fluffing. I think it's hilarious that you watch a video on how do they survive cold weather, and I talk about fluffing. Well, fluffing is they do to survive hot weather too. Their feathers are wonderful adaptations, and they fluff their feathers out, and what they do is they create space inside their feathers. So while it shields them from the cold, it also shields them from the heat. That's why when you see a bird in hotter weather, when it's really bulked up, like it looks real puffy, that's what they're doing. They're insulating themselves to get from that hot air. And then also in the winter, they do it to insulate from themselves for the cold air. So they definitely have, adaptations. The turkey vulture, I give that example. One of his adaptations for dealing with hot weather is they literally defecate on their legs to cool them down, which is pretty gross, but that's what they do. Birds have different mechanisms for survival, but their ability to seek out water and to seek out shade is huge for them. Of course, with wings, they can fly and find sheltered space out of the sun. But having water available to them, and if you're a regular follower, I talk about water all the time. This is a wonderful picture of a couple of my favorite devices that we sell. This is my favorite Birdbath, which is heated for the winter, but this time of year in the summer, it's not plugged in, but he has a leaf mister. And I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but there is a mist of water that he has blowing down and trickling down to the Birdbath lid. But also, he's got his flowers there. So he's getting watering of his flowers around that Birdbath. And as I've told many times, hummingbirds love flying through that mist. It's much easier for them to fly through the mist and then go find a place to sit down, probably in the shade somewhere, and then preen their feathers and absorb that, get that good moisture and soak through. So, but he has a couple of different water devices there. He's got a little bubbler type thing over on the right. And again, moving water, the sound of moving water is a real magnet to them, but they need the water for hydration, and they need the water for, keeping their feathers straightened out, healed, whatever term you want to use. When they preen, you see them running that bill through their feathers. You see them land in the water. You'll see them pick up the water in their bill, and they'll put it in their feathers, and you'll see them pushing their beak through their feathers, and that's what they're doing. They're rezipping them and keep them healthy and strong. And that's why, water is not just for hydration. It is for keeping those feathers healthy and maintaining cool. It helps cool them down, like you and I. It's the most important thing you can do for birds. Food, water, and shelter. Water is number one. I know that if a regular visitor saying, all right, Mark, you talk about this every time. I said, yes, I do pound the subject of water because I do believe in it so much. It's the key right now for them. Shallow bird baths, misty water, bubbler, moving water, all of those are important this time of year. And winter, we talk about unfrozen water, but this time of year, it's moving water, and fresh water. Keep it fresh, change it every day if you can. You want to keep the water safe and clean for them. And you got the dirty birds, like starlings look like when they move in, they look like a mud bath after they're out of it, but most birds just take and drink. And of course, the thing I always disprove is that birds like hummingbirds and all birds do not drink like a straw. They don't suck through those long, thin bills. Neither do hardly any birds. They have to put their bill in the water, lift their head, tilt their head back, and let the gravity bring the water down into their throat and into their system. So that's why you see birds drinking water that way. Pigeon and the family is the only one exception to that, and they literally can draw up water with their bills like that as a type of suction action. A lot of times it's more like a capillary action, bringing it up, but they're the exception to it. That's why you see them dipping the water and holding their head back. So water, man, is so important. All right, let's see. Before we move on next, catch up.
Just one. Richard asked about, do birds sunbathe?
Do birds sunbathe? Yes and no. They do. Part of that is like an anti-parasite thing for them. Like if they have feather lice and things, you'll see them quite often with their wings spread in the sun, and that helps against the parasites. They also do, dust bathing. Same thing. They're throwing sand up on their bodies, and that's helping with the parasites. And they also do anting, where they lay on an anthill, spread their wings out, and lay on that, and let the ants crawl all over them. And they'll grab the ant with their beak and spread it on their feathers, which is the formic acid they're spraying. They're spreading on their feathers, which is a deterrent against pests like feather lice. So yeah, in a way they kind of do. Kennedy says, do birds feel heat through their feet? Yes, when they grab something metallic and baking in the summer sun. Yeah, they do feel some heat, but their pads are actually their scales. They're covered in scales, so it's not like they would burn their skin like you and I would by grabbing something hot. They're scales, and so they can feel that heat, but they're not as vulnerable to any kind of the heat like that way as like we are. Is a full-time job here in Georgia keeping my bird bath school? Yes, it is in Georgia, and you guys down south. Having grown up down there, I'm fully aware of what you're talking about. It is so hot and so humid. I got a question the other day from someone in Mississippi, I think, about storing their bird seed in the steel cans and how hot and humid it is there. I'm telling you guys that this time of year, when it gets this bad and it comes to bird seed, try to buy smaller bags and keep them in your refrigerator or your freezer. It keeps humidity is an enemy too. So it just depends on the conditions where you are in those hot, humid areas in the South. It's just better to make your investment into smaller bags or break bigger bags down into small bags and keep them in a freezer or a refrigerator so that they won't get moldy from just the sheer humidity. Absolutely. All right. So nesting. The one that I'm going to add now, a lot of you guys that have a lot of bluebird nest and your cardinals have been nesting and all our resident birds have pulled off at least like 2 nests by now. And then those neotropic migrants who have come back, like orioles, they only pull off 1 nest. Hummingbirds only pull off 1 nest. But this guy hasn't nested yet. and they're just starting to right now. The American Goldfinch is the latest nesting songbird that we have, and they don't nest until mid to late July. I mean, right now, I mean, maybe early July, but mid July mostly, and that's why when you this time of year, people notice that their their goldfinch numbers go down, but they still see the males, but all of a sudden the females really disappear. They move out, and they're in the nesting part of it, and they are absolutely gone for a while. You have 2 weeks, of incubation, and then they fledge their baby. So during this hottest part of summer, why do they wait so late to nest? Well, it has to do a couple of different things. One is their favorite natural food are the natural thistles. Now, don't confuse natural thistles with the bad stuff introduced here, the bull thistles that are just past the plant and on the sides of the road. The native thistles, which are good thistles that are in grasslands, and they have those white fluffy seed heads, and they like to eat those seeds at the end of those fluffy seed heads, but they also like to line their nest with those the fluffy down part of those. And so they have been one of our latest nesting songbirds. And also, they don't feed their babies insects, which is extremely rare. They feed their babies a regurgitated seed milk mixture, if they would, to their babies, and they are. This time of year, they're not as dependent on insects, or the hot weather doesn't affect them as much because it's not harder to find insects like it is for some species. They're in the really, really hot stretches. So this is one that you're not seeing babies yet, but a lot of you are reporting, like just had you guys say even tonight that you're seeing the juvenile hummingbirds right now. And yes, they are just in our area. They're just starting to come in, and evidently in Cincinnati, and someone checked it. Oh, from North Carolina, they're seeing the babies. All of a sudden, your hummingbird numbers really shoots up about now, and across most of the range. And those are, the adult males are still around, the adult females are still around, and the babies start to show up. And for us, this is a jump in numbers, and people will add another hummingbird feeder. They have to start, even if they may have taken their hummingbird feeder in. I always recommend that you refill your hummingbird feeders or put some in it and at least hang it out about now in case you got babies coming around and others. And then you'll have hummingbirds hopefully now through the 1st of October in our area. And how do you tell them apart? The adult males and the adult females have those beautiful dark green backs. The males have that gorgeous red gorget, and the babies have this more rough grayish pattern on their back. Those are the tips of the feathers, and it's more mottled, and it's also more camouflage for the babies. But they will have that dark green back next year, and even toward the end of this year, they'll look even darker. But some are real mottled. But this guy, if you can see the throat there, it's not red, but there are a lot of spots in the throat, and that is a young male ruby-throated hummingbird from last summer or a couple summers ago. I think Mary took this picture. So, they're going to increase, and then we're going to obviously in the August wild bird update, we're going to be talking about a lot of fall migration with hummingbirds, because in the Kansas City region, we peak at the number of hummingbirds the last week of August to the first week of September. And I mean, we'll have a bunch of them. I know I have customers who add several hummingbird feeders for that time of the year. And of course, they have to change them frequently. Remember, those temperatures get up this high, you should really be changing it about every other day in there. People think they can fill a hummingbird feeder all the way up and leave it for several days. No, that is not that good for the hummingbird. So make sure you change it regularly and only use 4 parts water to 1 part sugar. And please don't use honey, artificial sweeteners, powdered sugars, brown sugars, none of that. Just use cane sugar. It is absolutely simple, and it's the best for them. So 4 parts water to 1 part sugar, change it about every other day. All right, who we got? Checking in.
We got that one.
Oh, yeah, we got that one.
Daryl.
Hi, Daryl. How are you tonight? You did make it. Is you on with your granddad tonight? You guys up in Rhode Island. Welcome in. Jerry Bratney. Hello, Jerry. How are you? All right. So the hummingbirds, yes, we're seeing And the difference between a juvenile hummingbird and an adult hummingbird, there's a lot of it's not super evident. Whereas some birds, it really is a lot, quite a bit different between the adults and the young. Northern cardinals, the juvenile on the right has that black bill, and whereas the adult, like the adult female here, has that orange bill. And the colorations, it's really hard to tell if this is going to be a male or a female. A lot of times early in the progression of their molting their feathers, when they're young like this, because they look like a male and a female. So as they progress, as they molt, this will probably be a male. But the amount of the real thing that strikes out is how disheveled, if it is the right word, how that juvenile looks on the right. But that black bill, and it will tell you that is definitely a cardinal, northern cardinal. So juvenile plumages can be confusing, and this is the time of year we get these pictures. Believe me, people trying to make it, and then even like the barred owl. This barred owl juvenile, the two pictures on the right were taken by an old neighbor of mine, and it would come and sit on his deck railing at night or in the day, and you can see the difference in the face and how fuzzy that barred owl looks around the head versus the clean, smooth feathers of the adult on the left. So those dark eyes are the same. And I don't know if I've told the story that this juvenile on the right was eating cicadas. He was flying down into my neighbor's yard, and he would come up with a cicada, and he was eating those, and he'd land up on his deck, and he'd fly back down and get another cicada out of the grass. So not exactly the food you think of barred owls eating, but a great example of a juvenile versus an adult there. And let's see, got a couple other examples. This is a one that really confuses people. This is a chipping sparrow, and on the adult on the upper left with the nice, clean white chest and the rufous cap or magenta cap and the black line to the eye, versus this highly striped individual on the right, which is a fledgling. This is a newly hatched and fledged chipping sparrow, and it looks quite a bit different than the adult chipping sparrow, and it confuses a lot of people. So just know when you're seeing a bird this time of year that you can't identify. Good field guides have pictures of juvenile birds in them. Lesser field guides, which are geared toward to be small and for just getting started, they're not going to have those more detailed pictures in it that will help you find the juvenile birds in it. But a good field guide will have a lot of pictures of the young birds like this chipping sparrow in it. And another for the bird watchers out there, and this is a yellow warbler on the left, a beautiful adult yellow warbler male, and then this on the right is a juvenile one, the one just hatched this year. So you can see the difference. How I remember the old Roger Strait Peterson field guide. Whenever I first was getting started bird watching and trying to decide on what was the best field guide, one of the sections I loved in the Peterson field guide was a section called Confusing Fall Warblers. And that's because you get so many birds like this on the right in the fall that you never see in the spring. And so you think you're seeing a whole new group of birds, but it is just the juveniles. And of course, juveniles are going to outnumber adults. If nesting was successful and they raise 2 or 3 babies, and there's going to be a lot more of those out there. And so in fall bird watching, you really have to be alert for those juvenile birds. So a lot of differences, a lot of plumage variation from a juveniles to adult. Just need to be on the lookout for that this time of year. All right, let's see. Who else we got checking in? From Syracuse, New York. Welcome in from up there north. Absolutely. It gets cold there in the winter, doesn't it? I've seen some cardinals that look like that they are molting. They are definitely molting this time of year. And this is, I didn't put a picture in there. I certainly could have a picture of a bald cardinal. We were getting those a few weeks ago where there were no feathers on the head, and always throws people off because the cardinal skin is actually black, and they think there's something wrong and it's sick, but it is just a throw molt. The feathers on the head are for insulation in the winter. Don't have to worry about now. They're for courting in the spring. They don't have to worry about that after they're nesting and stuff. So we'll do see blue jays as well. You'll see these throw molts, but they will grow the feathers back, and they'll be perfectly fine. How do we send you pictures? Okay, you forgot. That's a good question. Thank you, Richard.
Here, and I just put it here.
Melanie put the link in. Whenever we post the video, there is the description below, which tells you, has all my contact information. It has the contact information for sending me pictures and looking up the store website, looking at the online store. If you want to support us that way, all that information is actually below the video. So in the information section, so it all can be found there. And there's Melanie put that up there for you. All right, Andrew. Let me stay this active until they leave. It'll get busier, Andrew. These young birds don't know what they're doing. They're new to the world, and they're looking for the freebie sources of food. Now, know that what's going to happen now. How in the spring I talked about the adults chasing the females around, the males chasing the females around, and it's all about flirting and the behavior and setting up territories and mating. Well, this time of year, it is all about fattening up for their journey south. These birds have got a long journey ahead of them here in a few weeks, and they're laying on the fat. They're getting heavier and heavier so they can make those long journeys to the south. So it is more that mine attitude, when they find a bird feeder. So when those young birds who come in who do not know what's going on and eating it, and then all of a sudden an adult comes in and chases them away, the females will chase them away too, and the kids are going, what? Wait, what? And he's going. So they're looking for food sources. But generally, if you see 2 or 3 hummingbirds feeding at the same time around the feeder in our area, especially, it's going to be 3 juveniles because the adults are going to dominate that food source out of need. And so that's a lot of what's going on. So between now and when they leave, you're going to see a steady increase in the numbers of hummingbirds because you're going to start getting movement from the north. You're going to get, northern Ohio and southern Canada and area. Those birds are going to start moving south, and they'll pass through your area. And I bet you'll peak kind of like we do in late August, early September. And then, as I always tell it used to be that if we saw a hummingbird past September 15th in our area, that was pretty uncommon. Now we see them regularly up until the first week of October. So, my guess is that time would be about the same for you.
Okay, this is somebody new here.
Hello, Delilah. Welcome in. So, what does this say? Typos.
Yeah, Andrew had a couple typos.
Oh,
so
okay.
I told him we're all good.
We're good. Yep.
Here's something called Hayden's Backyard.
Hayden's Backyard. Hi from Francisville, Louisiana. You said hummingbirds have 1 brood. I have seen a hummingbird. Yeah, 3. Yeah, down that far south. Yes, you guys down there. And remember, I speak mainly when I'm talking about Kansas City. So for you guys in the south, they get in so much earlier than here, and they also stay later because the weather's so much milder. So you guys in the south, you definitely can have more than 1 nest a season. Whereas you guys that way to our north, they've got to get nesting and through and get out of there and start moving fairly quickly. So, and we're kind of in between. But if a hummingbird put off 2 nests in our area, I wouldn't be absolutely floored, but usually not the case. Usually they have the 1. So. You're right. Yeah, the deep south. It is, and they overwinter down there as well. There's several hummingbirds that overwinter along the Gulf Coast and the southeastern coast of the U.S., southern Florida, and so yes, that's something we don't see hardly ever. Where you guys can see that for sure.
He said it glitched and
I got you.
We got Andrew answered. Do falcons, Mike?
Yes, yes and no. Falcons it depends on, we have peregrine falcons that nest in Greenland, and then they migrate down into the continental U.S. in the winter. And then it just depends. They can fly so far and so fast that it's highly variable. The peregrine falcon, the name peregrine falcon literally means Falco peregrinus means great wanderer. So those birds can travel tremendous areas over short amounts of time. Yeah. All right. Another topic that I'm going to segue here into the juvenile birds and molting. We talked about a lot about molt. Is how many of you know that there's a period here with about 4 to 5 weeks, maybe even 6, that Canada geese cannot fly. And it's going on right now. We're in the middle of it right now. And of course, when you're driving around and you see a flock of Canada geese like this, and it is not Canadian, please. Canada geese is proper. And they wander in the middle of the road, and you drive up, and they just slowly, they walk out of the way. You don't see them fly off the road. They wander here, and you see them walking around in fields and on lakes and things like that. But then they can't fly. The reason for that is they're right on the border of they're too heavy to fly anyways because of their large body mass. But this time of year, they are molting feathers, and they can't lose more than a couple of flight feathers in their wings before they can't get the lift they need to fly. And of course, they have all their babies that have hatched, the goslings, and they're still molting and can't fly. So you see these large flocks wandering around. Like this is right outside the back door of my store today on this hill between us and Lowe's up there, and they're wandering around. They're grazing, and but they can't fly. If you go running up to them, which you shouldn't, but if you go running up to them, they're going to scurry off. They're not going to fly because they can't get that lift. So it's pretty interesting. I don't know how many people really know that, but it happens every year. It's the flightless period for these Canada geese that nest, and it's your price for paying to be this big and this heavy to fly. There's going to be that time when you can't even afford to lose a couple of feathers or have them undergrowth to get enough lift. So let's see. From Ruth Music from Lacine, Kansas. Welcome in. I've seen the hummingbirds during their mating dance. Yes, that is what it's called. And absolutely, yeah, the males do a mating dance for the females. And they it is quite entertaining. They do the big U shape above the female. You see them doing it in the spring. And if you see one doing it, just look for the female because she's sitting on the limb somewhere and he's doing it right above her and trying to impress her. So, yeah, absolutely. Yep. So there's something, biological fact about the Canada geese at this time of year. And then the one other topic I wanted to hit before we turn it over to questions and answers is the subject, one of my favorite birds, the bobwhite, northern bobwhite. Yes, it's a quail, but the name is not officially quail because it's a northern bobwhite. And this is a bird that has, it kind of breaks my heart because it's a bird special to me. I worked with this bird on Fort Bragg out of college and, followed them around with radio telemetry equipment and mapped out habitat and all those kind of things. Really fun work. But their numbers have declined so badly. And I've had so many people, so many comments to say, oh, I remember as a child growing up hearing, it used to be a common sound. If there's any grassland areas and even in fairly urban areas, we used to hear bobwhite. Well, the bobwhites are a ground nesting bird, and farming practices really hurt them. In a lot of the area where fescue is the main grass crop, they have very hard time nesting in fescue because it's so thick, and they need bunch grass so they have places to lay their eggs and have their nest versus all wet grass. It's hard on the babies. Lots of reasons for bobwhite decline and like a lot of grassland birds. So it makes me sad because I love northern bobwhites. They are a bird that is near and dear to my heart, and for a lot of people, I think they feel the same way. This is a male, with the white throat and the white stripe. The females have the tan stripe to the eye and the tan throat. But, anymore for us, when Ruth and I did our breeding bird surveys for years, we did it in grassland areas to the north and the south of Kansas City, and we would get to hear them on those routes. But anywhere close here to the urban areas, one of the things that happens in closer urban areas is things like house cats are terrible on them because they're ground nesting birds, and so cats but also black rat snakes and skunks take their toll on them in their nest, and it makes me sad. I'd love to see the quail make a comeback, and it's not because we haven't tried. Believe me, conservation departments for years have put a ton of money into trying to bring back bobwhite populations. It's just been very tough. So, all right. a reminder, yes, if you please do, if you like the videos, please give us a thumbs up or a heart. And share them with your friends. That really helps a lot if you can. The algorithm of the YouTube uses to spread the word about me. We had a really good day yesterday. We ended up must have had a video pop up on Google that helped us get exposure yesterday. It was great. We love seeing that. All right, hello, Frontier from SoCal. Is it hot down there? And maybe you get the ocean to help you out there. Arthur, you have excellent. For the hummingbirds, oh yes, I have lots of California quail. They are also cute. Absolutely. The California quail and the Gamble's quail out there is amazing how common they are in areas. The habitat is much more suited for them out there, and they don't have to contend with fescue in a lot of the areas because of the dry conditions. This helps them out a lot.
They're answering my.
Oh, and thank you. Absolutely. Yep. For hitting that like button, please. Hi, Brittany. I remember hearing that off growing up. Haven't heard them in a while now. And that you mentioned it. It's very sad. Like I said, it does make me sad because it was just a sound of my childhood for sure. So that's what I had, kind of topics to talk about July, and there's many more topics, obviously. But I thought you can definitely open it up for questions. I know that we have lots of people.
Somebody just said the president ran long, and I'm just getting home. So
the president was on tonight. So was I competing with the president? All right, that's funny.
Oh, and I was say, don't we have people from like Houston? Then they have the hurricane, like.
Oh yeah, was that earlier this week. Yeah, hope you guys down there in the hurricane path fared well. I know Key, you're from the Houston area. Hope everything was fine. There are several houses that look like they have pox. Can you talk about bird pox? I am not an expert on the topic. I just know that a lot of times house finches are, there's a whole, there's a history of them why they're not. But house finches are not that healthy a bird because they all come in the eastern U.S. They come from a very small genetic stock. It's kind of the cheetah effect, we call it. And that is their population in the eastern U.S. Came from the few escape bird or release birds in New York City years ago when they made it illegal to keep them as cage birds. And so they don't have the genetic diversity in their genes to fight off diseases and sicknesses. And we talk about the conjunctivitis eye disease that they're vulnerable to. But and I get people send me pictures occasionally of birds that they think have pox. Now, I would definitely refer you to people with more expertise on that, like an animal rehab facility. If you have them close by in Kansas City, it would be Lakeside Nature Center. And there are many of them across the country that deal especially with avian diseases. That the pictures that I have familiar with sending to people, they end up not being pox. Any of the ones that the people have sent me, they get tumors. I had a picture the other day, and it looked like a house finch that had been pecked maybe by another bird, or probably a house sparrow, that it was actually bleeding. Looked like it had been. So there's a lot of things that can make that. But I would really recommend, if you're concerned, contact like the local conservation department down there or a rehab facility that might send them pictures that may help you with that for sure. A juvenile red-tailed hawk using my backyard and my neighbor's backyard for hunting practices. Snatched 2 doves this week. A lone brave blue jay chased it away yesterday. Go Blue Jays! That's one of the reasons why you want to keep those Blue Jays happy with your in-shell peanuts. Raptors, red-tailed hawks, they have to feed their babies too, and they have to hunt and they have to catch food. We're tenderhearted, and our parental instincts take over when we see an animal, being killed, especially when it's a cute little rabbit or one of our favorite birds. But it is part of life, and many times about mourning dove said, they're the rabbits of the bird world. They have lots of babies, and one of the reasons they have lots of babies is because lots of things like to eat them. So that's why they have 6-7 nests a season, and they raise a lot of babies, and they have that excess. So that's why they're You know, like I said, part of the predator-prey relationship with hawk. So.
Okay. Tell Andrew thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I know we have to keep up with the times, but hey, birds are great.
Okay.
When can we expect to see Orioles again? I thought I saw one along the road earlier this week. Yes, absolutely. Right now, I got to see Brian. I haven't seen Brian on tonight. He sent me a picture a few days ago of a juvenile Oriole on his feeder being fed by an adult, which was the cover picture of tonight's video. And if you got that in your inbox, that wasn't the picture, but he sent me one like that. That yes, he yesterday was his first juvenile bluebird. I mean, not bluebird, his first juvenile hummingbird, and like 3 days ago was his first juvenile Oriole. God, I can't talk. So yes, they are coming in. Look for them now, the Orioles. And remember, Orioles are one of our first birds to migrate south. The adult male Orioles will leave in the next week, 2 weeks maybe. And then the adult females will leave after them, a week or two after that. And the juveniles will stick around through August, and then they'll leave for the most part. And then people go, oh, the Orioles are gone. And then about September, all of a sudden, some Orioles show up at their feeders. Those are northern birds passing through. Yeah, and spring migration, it's get to your nesting grounds as fast as you can. And the fall is take your time getting south. That's why I remember last July talking about how in coastal North Carolina, where I grew up, my best time to see Baltimore Orioles was in the fall along the coast. They're moving south. So, yeah, you should be seeing them very soon.
That's your new one right here.
Right here. Thought I saw an interesting female hummingbird making a nest from spider webs. That's they do. They use spider webs and lichen. For the most part, you can put out the real fine cotton for them, and they'll grab that. But yes, that is what they make their nest with.
Let's see, hold on, I got ahead of myself.
It's
coming in rapid fire,
fast and furious now. Okay. We love quail too. We just converted a CRP excellent from row crop. Oh, that's great. We hear quail. There are programs to help stock the quail and establish their covey. And Carol, the problem with trying to stock them is that a lot of people will use pen raised birds, and that is not a good idea. Pen raised birds actually have been known to introduce disease into wild populations, and so we don't recommend that. But the habitat manipulation, what you're doing is everything. CRP land is so important. For those who don't know what CRP, that's Conservation Reserve Program. It's a federal program that pays people not to farm their land. That is to try to give the land time to heal. And native residents is so important to monarchs and birds like Bobwhites. They love that CRP land where it's let to go instead of being covered in fescue. So, the CRP program is super important. So, applaud you for doing that and help those quail out. And as much native plants as you can get in there, the better.
Okay, so the last word's supposed to be Birdbath.
Okay, I do attract for the acrylic window bird feeder. Have rose bush for shelter. Do I need to
buy a Birdbath?
Buy a Birdbath. Food, water, and shelter, Arthur. Water is the single most important thing you can do.
I think this is where you are right here.
Yeah, and definitely provide water for the best way that you can. If you just water your yard, make sure that your sprinkler hits some bushes, because they'll just sit in the bushes and let the water drip off of them, and they'll fluff and they'll bathe in there. A dedicated bird bath is great. But if you're providing water anyway, that picture I showed earlier of the mister, using that to help water the flowers, but providing that mist, the birds love it. They'll just sit under it, and the hummingbirds will fly through it. Hi, Denise. Welcome in from Washington State. You have made bird watching so much more satisfying by providing essential information. Caring birds. Thank you, Denise. That is my goal. That is exactly why I do this. So I am so glad that you feel that way, and I hope you guys are. Other people are gaining that type of appreciation for each other. Absolutely. Mr. Work. Hello, Mr. Work. And let's see, Janine, the catbirds stay year round in Central. No, typically not, Janine. They will migrate. Now they may winter only like on the Gulf Coast, or they may go down into northern Mexico, Central America, but they do not spend the winters that far north. They do eat a lot of fruit, so they can survive in areas. If it's a very mild winter and one has maybe some kind of condition that it can't migrate and one does stay into the winter, they can subsidize on berries. So that may get them through. But for the most part, they want insects during the winter months. They go south. So great bird. Absolutely a great bird. Broad-shouldered hawk with 2 hawklets and nest 2 doors away. Boy does not like that it's when I go down to my yard. And again, 2 doors away, I get buzzed time and time again. Yes, the birds of prey, like the hawk group, and broadwings, or red-shouldered, Cooper's hawks. Anytime you get real close to their nest, Mississippi kites, and did the video on those, they will buzz you. That is, but that's just during that period when they've got young. Usually, they usually don't do it when they just have eggs. But once those babies hatch, they are going to try to keep anything that is a threat to them away from their nest. So you can't blame them. We do what we do to protect our babies. All right, Brittany, our local news had an article about Missouri killing 1 owl species. Not Missouri. The loss of nesting.
I think it was in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, the Pacific Northwest is, Brittany, where that's going on. That's up in Washington State, Oregon, places like that. And that is the case of the spotted owl, the northern spotted owl, which is an endangered species up in the Pacific Northwest. Well, because of urbanization and deforestation and young growth, things like that, the barred owls from the eastern U.S. have been able to expand their range westward. And in areas where they are getting into the endangered species, spotted owl habitat, that they are actually killing and eating the spotted owls, which are an endangered species. And so it's a controversial topic, but the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they've done lots of studies, and they determined the word protection in endangered species can take on lots of meaning, lots of different forms. And protection in this case is to protect the spotted owls from going extinct. Then they've made a decision to try to harvest and kill some of the barred owls that are encroaching into that habitat. So it is a problem that we created through our growth and expansion into their habitat. But I know it's not a fun topic, but having worked with endangered species in my career, I understand that sometimes you have to do drastic things to help to keep a species from going extinct. And so that's what that whole situation is about. Not anywhere out here in the eastern 3/4 of the country is that going to happen. So don't have those spotted owls out here. Seeing many different goldfinches now in central Ohio. They love the black tie seed. Excellent, David. Yeah, they love the black tie. That is, my goldfinches, again, I'm in a new yard, so I don't know what's normal here. But I've seen some males the last few days eating on the medium sunflower chips I have out. So yeah, they feed pretty well. Now, when goldfinches are going to totally disappear for most of us are during September and October. And that is when nature's bounty kicks in. That's when all the native wildflower seeds produce, and the goldfinches tend to move out into the field edges and fallow pasture, CRP land, places like that. And then they don't return until we get frost and freeze, and usually in December. So we'll go a couple months without them. And when they come back, they won't be bright yellow anymore. So we'll talk about that later. Frontier, I have a house finch nest under my eave, but one day I see the nest was abandoned with many ants. Uh-oh. Yeah.
And here's the next part of it.
Oh, so they're part of it. Okay.
Part two.
Did ants attack and took over the nest, or did the hatchlings die? There's no way to really know that for sure, but that is, if the ants did infest there, they could definitely have contributed to the demise of the babies. But if you didn't, did you find dead babies in the nest and with ants all over them, or did you just find a lot of ants in the nest after perhaps they had left? It's hard to know out there, but ants can be bad. Yeah, for baby birds, no doubt about it.
Hello,
Jeffrey Miller here in the Northland.
Did you see the one about Brownsville, Texas? And
Hey, Sandy Dion from Kankakee, Illinois. Welcome in.
There was one earlier from somebody from Brownsville, Texas.
I didn't see that.
I think we skipped that one.
Uh-oh.
Go up more. Hold on. Oh, well, now where is it? Because it's on mine over here.
I don't know.
Let me see. Let me look for a way.
Melanie said we missed one from Brownsville, Texas. So I did want to check in there. I love Brownsville, Texas. Been bird watching down there many times. That is, if you want to see some different birds from wherever you live, the Rio Grande Valley gets a lot of Mexican species right there on the border.
Oh, here it is.
Fun to see.
Okay. We weren't there yet.
We weren't there
yet.
Oh, okay.
It was because it was the next one after the
Frontier Dance.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Brownsville, Texas. A pair of red-crowned parrots. Yep. Came in my yard and I were building a nest. That is so cool. Are they a native parrot? I can't seem to get much info about them. I have a video about them. If you search my YouTube channel for parrots in the U.S., I did a program about those, and I have seen those red-crowned parrots down there, along with the green parakeets. Now, there is some debate, as to did those birds naturally come up from Texas and from Mexico and establish those populations there, or were those escape birds? And I don't know that they. People have different opinions. I don't know if it's ever proved, but they are fairly well established down there. And you see them on power poles when you're flying around. And if you know where they roost at night, I remember we went in Brownsville to it was a baseball field with lots of lights, and there were trees they were known to roost in at night. We were out there at sunset, and those parrots were just coming in like crazy and roosting in those trees at night. So the green parakeet and the red-crowned parrot both occur down there, and they nest. So if you want to search my YouTube channel, Mark's Backyard Birds, and do parrots, and it should come up with that video I did about them. Great bird. We don't get to see that up here, that's for sure. You're very welcome, Arthur. I'm glad to help out. Yep, the catbirds do love the grape jelly. The catbirds, the brown thrashers, even mockingbirds will eat it too. All three of those mimic thrushes will eat the grape jelly. All right.
We're getting close.
Yep.
Got Andrew
here. You're very welcome, Andrew. Thanks for participating and supporting the channel.
Getting close to being caught.
I'm still seeing the Cooper's hog hunting my yard. Yep. I heard 2 owls last night close to my house. What owl gives hoot? Now, remember the 3 owls that we have in the Kansas City region that are most common. You have the proverbial great horned owl, which is a proverbial ooh, 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 real deep throaty. And then the barred owl, which is the most common, is woo, 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 woo. Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? And then the little screech owl, the little guy, goes. But that I think they should have been called the quiver owl, by the way. But they're the small owl, and like I said, barred owls are the most common, but we do have great horns as well. So,
Brittany up here.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely, yep. 18 goldfinches almost on the other. That's the pictures I'm getting right now, Andrew. Yeah, people are sending me pictures of sunflowers and purple coneflowers in their yard, and this is the time of year where you get a lot of activity on those, and not as much on your feeder sometimes because they're starting to select for those natural food sources. So once those sunflowers come into bloom, they goldfinches and seed, they'll take advantage of it. A lot of blast, like the goldfinches on my sunflowers. Yep, there you go. The flower. Yep. Had a hummingbird after a long absence. Yep, there it is now time. They're coming back in.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I love this one here.
Do not worry about missing the president. It'll be. That's right. I always get caught up later. So, absolutely.
Oh, Andrew.
Andrew popped in. Thank you, Andrew. I do pride myself in my owl calls.
I think we might need to do a show of you just doing bird calls.
I don't do that many, but I know for years I've been doing owl prowls at the Nature Center World that I was so involved with, and we go out and I do the owl calls, and the birds answer me, and sometimes they come in really close. And I practiced them in college a lot, and I was learning them, and I did them in the shower because the shower has such a good echo, and I would practice them, and my roommates, of course, thought I was nuts. But I did. I've done this for a long time.
So David says it's a great idea.
Your idea of
the
bird
next one.
calls? Yeah. I haven't checked on the next yet, but I believe the ants attacked and took over. Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. That is a really tough situation to protect them from ants in a nest. It's not like a bird feeder. You can put a nectar protector on it, and the ants can't crawl across at the nest. That's not going to work. So, and you have to be careful with any kind of chemical you use. That's for sure. David, are you agreeing with my wife? Is that what she's telling me? She thinks that about doing the. Like I said, I don't do a gazillion bird calls. I do a few, but that's the owls. I think are I'm decent, especially the barred owls, my favorite. So.
Well, and you could do a turkey.
I can do turkeys pretty well. Yeah, she's right. Somebody suggested a program on bird songs and bird calls and bird chip notes and things like that. That'd be pretty extensive. That would have to be more of a class type thing than just doing a program on, because there's so much out there. There's many different sounds and vocalizations that birds do, and every bird. I try to put some of them in on every species profile.
Here we go. Look.
All right.
I love your bird call.
Oh, thank you. Well, the bird guy. My wife, when we first got married, she called me the man of 1,000 sounds, because I do all kind of different sounds like that.
And then I guess
a bird call class. Interesting. Great night, everyone. Thanks again for all you do for the bird world. Absolutely, Jeffrey. Thank you for joining in. You guys are awesome. The Merlin app is fascinating. It makes mistakes. Know that it is not perfect. I have people send me screenshots of their Merlin where it named, so they heard, a miller bird or different things from all around the world. So it does make mistakes. It's a great learning tool, but don't take everything for face value on it. That's my only warning. Yeah. Red tails and owls too. Plenty of grackles, starlings for them. Yeah. Keep peanuts out for the jays and woodpeckers. Absolutely. Your jays are your best protection from hawks. Keep them happy with their in-shell peanuts, and they will reward you. Now, they get called every once in a while, too, the element of surprise, especially by Cooper's hawks. But when it comes to those hawks, those family groups of jays are great at chasing them away. So, absolutely. Thank you, guys, everybody, for joining in tonight. Yeah. Yeah. They put up with me, that's for sure. And one of my roommates is the guy that got me started bird watching, so it was his fault kind of anyway. So. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We had another great program, great questions. Hope you learned something tonight. That's definitely my goal. We'll be back on again in 2 weeks. And then, remember everybody. And I'm thinking about going live on this Sunday. Just somebody suggested I talk about some of my favorite bird watching
like gear.
Things I like to use. And with Amazon Prime Day coming, I thought maybe go on and give you some advice on that. So, hopefully you'll be able to send out a notice. But if we're going to go live, it'll probably be Sunday evening, and we'll talk about some of the favorite bird watching gear. Thank you, Shirley. Excellent. Andrew, always a pleasure. David, thank you.
That's
Frontier,
me.
Absolutely. And then this is
Me
thinking everybody. Absolutely. Take care, Rooster. I love you. Have a good evening. Good night.